Yeah.
So today we are going to see two stories from Mahabharata. So before we start, I thought I'll just have a little quiz with all of you. So if Mahabharata is one of our itihasas, what is the other one? Can any one of you name it?
Ramayana.
Ramayana.
Very good.
Ramayana. Ramayana.
Good.
Ramayana.
Okay. So who wrote Mahabharata?
Saint
Ganesha.
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 Okay. He was the scribe. Okay. Okay, so basically he wrote it, but who was the actual?
Vyasa.
Yeah,
Vyasa. Vyasa.
very nice. And who wrote Ramayana?
Valmiki.
Okay, let's get into a little difficult question. Okay, how many days did the Mahabharata war last for?
18.
18.
18.
Very nice. And how many parvas are there in Mahabharata?
18.
Good.
18.
Okay. Where was the Mahabharata war fought? Which place?
Kurukshetra.
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 Good. And which two sides fought the Mahabharata war?
The Pandavas and the Kauravas.
Pandavas and Kauravas.
Pandavas and Kauravas.
Okay. So now this is the last question. Think carefully before you answer, right? Okay. So how many Kauravas were left after the war?
0. 2.
Carefully before you answer, all right?
6. 6.
Okay. Should I tell the answer then?
4. 0.
Okay. So I'll tell you the answer. There was one Kaurava left. His name was Yuyutsu. Do you know who he is? Have you heard of this name?
Duryodhana's stepbrother.
Sorry?
Duryodhana's stepbrother.
Yes, very nice. So just before the war started, Yudhishthira gave a call saying whoever wants to change their sides can do so. So Yuyutsu came on the side of Pandavas and fought the Mahabharata war. So at the end of the war, he was the only person on the Kaurava, among the Kauravas who was alive, right? So, and how many Pandavas were left after the war?
5.
Good, good. Can you name the Pandavas? Can you name the Pandavas? Panch Pandavas?
Yudhishthira, Arjuna, Sahadeva.
Super. I got almost all correct answers from you people. I understand. I see that you're very sharp a lot. So now let's go to our story, right? So both of these stories are from the Shanti Parva. So Shanti Parva is the 12th Parva in the Mahabharata. So in the Shanti Parva, after the Mahabharata war happens, all the Pandavas along with Yudhishthira, Krishna, everybody goes to Hastinapura, and there Yudhishthira is crowned Chakravarti. Right? After he is crowned the Chakravarti, he comes back along with his brothers and Krishna to Kurukshetra battlefield, where Bhishma was lying on the bed of arrows. There he goes and asks Bhishma, sorry, did I say Bhima? So Bhishma. So Bhishma and Yudhishthira goes and asks the final teachings from Bhishma. So here, so basically Shanti Parva and the next Parva, which is the Anushasana Parva, both of these are actually like a dialogue between Yudhishthira and Bhishma. So Yudhishthira asks all kind of questions related to how one should rule, how one should do his work, dharma, etc. And Bhishma tries to answer all his questions. Right. So our story today, the first one is the story of Gautama and Chirakari. Right. So, right. So here, the first the question that Yudhishthira asked for this story was, how does one accomplish difficult tasks? So sometimes our tasks are assigned by seniors, people who are of a higher authority or people who are elder to us. And sometimes those tasks are not easy, they're cruel tasks, they are difficult to perform. So, in that kind of a scenario, what should one do? Should one go ahead and do that job which was assigned, or should one abstain from doing it? And in case one does the job, should one do it at a fast pace, or should one delay it? These were the thoughts which were running through Yudhishthira's mind, and he asked this question to Bhishma. So, then Bhishma tells Yudhishthira about Chirakari. So he says, I'm going to tell you a story. Listen carefully. This story teaches us the importance of reflecting on one's actions, weighing pros and cons, thinking very, very seriously about anything that we do. So this is the story of Gautama and Chirakari. Right. So who is this Chirakari? Chirakari is the son of Gautama Maharshi. Gautama Maharshi belongs to the clan of Angirasa. So all of us have Gotras, right? So similarly, Chirakari belongs to the Angirasa clan. He is the son of Gautama. So why was he named Chirakari? He was named Chirakari because when he was born, his mother thought of him for a very long time. She had him in her womb for a very long time, and when he came out very slowly. And because of this disposition of his, he used to reflect a lot on whatever he was doing. He used to think a lot before sleeping, think a lot before he used to do any work. Somebody has a question? I see a raised hand. Should we go for the question now, or should we?
We'll keep it in end, and we'll request anyone keep the questions till end. Don't raise anything in between. Thank you.
All right. Okay. So we'll answer the questions at the end. All right. So he was named Chirakari because he used to reflect on all his actions. He used to take a long time in doing any of the jobs. Because of this disposition of his, he was considered a dullard. He was considered a foolish person and a person of idle mind and idle work. Idle, IDLE. So, but Gautama knew that Chirakari was a very smart person, very intelligent person. Now, there was a day when Gautama got very angry with his wife because of some reason, and Gautama had a couple of other kids also, but Gautama gave the order to Chirakari and said, Chirakari, go and kill your mother. That was the order given by Gautama because he was very angry, and after saying this, he left the ashrama and he went away. So Chirakari. So now let's understand this order from the perspective of Yudhishthira's question. So what do you think? How do you think this task is a difficult task? Absolutely difficult, because killing one's mother, killing anybody is difficult, and killing one's mother is absolutely difficult. Now, are we obligated to do this task? Was Chirakari obligated to do this task? Yes, because Gautama was his father. He was his senior. Was it a cruel task? Absolutely. It was a very cruel task. So, what should he have done? What should Chirakari have done? Should he have obeyed his father, or should he abstain from doing it? Or should he have done it if in case he wanted to kill his mother, should he have done it just at a clap of a hand or like this, or should he have delayed it for a long period of time? So what was the thought process which was running through Chirakari's mind? Let's see that. So what does Chirakari do now? Chirakari was in a big dilemma. He didn't know what to do, because on one hand he had to obey his father, and on the other hand he had his mother to take care of. Both of them are his parents. He had equal responsibility towards both of them, both of his parents, mother as well as father. So what should he do? Then he starts thinking about the importance of both his parents. Now, so first of all, he starts thinking about the importance of his father. father is a person who does all our karma. So when we are born, and when our names are given by our parents, and then Upanayana happens, and all those kind of karmas are done by our father. Then he is the one who feeds us, as in he is the breadwinner of the family and he feeds us. Then he is the person who imparts us the knowledge. He teaches us the Vedas, he teaches us all the other worldly knowledge. And he is considered, in our Indian culture, father is considered a combination of all the deities put together. Both the parents are like that. So both the parents, we consider both the parents as gods, right? So father is a combination of all the deities put together. Now, and obeying one's father gives you the highest merit in this whole world. If you obey your father, that is it. That is the best thing that one can do. So one obtains prosperity. So if you obey your father, you will get prosperity in your life. And father is the foremost superior. That means he is the first person whom we have to pray to. And he is the highest religion. That means there is nothing higher than carrying out the order given by your father. This was what he thought about his father. Now let's see what he thought about his mother. So, importance of mother. Mother gives us protection in her womb. So she gives us shelter. She is our first line of defense. I mean, if somebody says anything, she stands in front of us and says, no, 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 don't say anything about my child, right? And no one can be dearer than a mother. A mother, you protect her, she protects you, she is your first shelter. And then, because she bores you, you are in a womb, she is called Dhatri, right? After giving birth to you, she is called the Janani. And then when you are young, she nurses you into adulthood, and that is why she is called Amba. And she makes you into a courageous child. That is why she is called Virasu. Then she takes care of you after you grow up, after she takes care of you as a child as well as you grow up. So she's called a Sura. And because of the mother, one knows about the father as well as the family, right? So mother marries father and she comes into a family. So she tells you who the father is and who the family is. So these were all the important things that were running through his mind. So how do I kill my mother when these are the most important things? And how do I not obey my father because of all the things that I've mentioned? So he keeps thinking, and a long time passes away where he still keeps thinking. But the moment uh, Gautama says that, he says, so be it, and he takes a weapon. But that weapon is very loosely held in his hand. He doesn't do anything with that weapon yet because he keeps thinking, he keeps reflecting on the importance of the mother and the father. Now let's see. In the meantime, Gautama reflects on his actions. Do you see this picture? She is Gautama's wife. Her name is Ahalya. Do you remember? Do you know the story of Ahalya? So we'll cover it later in case time permits. But so she is Ahalya, the wife of Gautama. So in the meantime, Gautama reflects on his actions. So whenever we are angry, so Gautama was angry, right? And he said, kill your mother to Chirakari. He ordered that to Chirakari. But sometimes we are also angry. We also say something bad and then we regret it, right? Why did I say all these things? That is what runs through our mind. So sometimes we get angry and we do all these things. So that is what was running through Gautama's mind as well. So he was reflecting. He was reflecting, why did I give such a bad advice? Why did I give a bad order? How foolish of me to do this to Chirakari. Chirakari is such a great person. He always keeps reflecting on this. But unfortunately, I have given this order to that great person. How will he do? What will he do? I hope he has not killed his mother and given a great sin onto himself as well as onto me. Because I have done a great penance to get whatever tapas shakti I have got. But with this kind of anger that I have, I will lose all the tapas shakti that I have. And he was thinking all these thoughts and he was weeping and crying. Why did I do this? And he came running back to the ashram. He comes running back to the ashram and sees that Chirakari has not gone ahead and done the job because he was still reflecting. So when Chirakari sees Gautama, he comes rushing and falls on his feet, throwing away the weapon. You see the weapon? So he throws away the weapon and prostrates in the feet of Gautama and says, I'm sorry I was not able to do the job. But Gautama, seeing that Ahalya was alive and Chirakari has delayed doing his job, that way Gautama was extremely happy because he was saved from the sin of killing his wife, and Chirakari was saved from the sin of killing his mother. So this way, both of them were saved from such a great sin, and Gautama was very happy and blessed Chirakari. What did he bless? He said, "You are a blessed person. Because of you, your actions, you made me very happy." And because of your actions, both of us have not become sinners, and you have avoided grief to both of us. By the way of your actions, you have not carried out my order, and hence you have avoided such a great grief which comes by killing one's wife and killing one's mother. So this is a great thing that you have done. I'm really, really happy that you have not carried out my order. So what is the moral of this story? So as Gautama has said and realized, he said something in haste and left, right? So he had to face a lot of problems. So that is why, first of all, we should not say anything hastily, because once you say something, you will never be able to take back your words. So you should be very careful in what you say. Don't become angry. If you don't become angry, you'll not be saying something in haste and you'll not be hurting the other person. So don't become angry in whatever you do, and don't develop pride, ahankara. So if you have ahankara, then you'll feel that you are the best person in this world and start doing something bad, and that destroys the whole environment and scenario. So we should never develop pride. And then the most important aspect is we should reflect for a long time over our actions. What is it that we are doing? Are we doing it right? Are we doing it wrong? We have to weigh both the pros and the cons of the whole thing. So whatever we are doing, any action that we are doing, is it right? Should we do it? What happens if we do it, and what happens if we don't do it? All these things you have to keep reflecting. That is the great thing about Chirakari, right? Respect your elders. See, Chirakari wanted to carry out the order given by Gautama, but he was also respectful of his mother as well as father. So he kept on ruminating, reflecting, and he didn't disobey his father because he was still reflecting, but ultimately respected his parents. And respect the learned persons, people who are more educated, people who are elder to you, people who have learned more. So whatever, so you need to respect those people. That is a very important aspect. Now keep your soul under restraint. That means soul in the sense is keep your senses, like your whatever. You shouldn't become over enthusiastic about anything. Be patient. Be, you see a toy in a shop, right, and you want to buy it. Wait, reflect. Will this toy or will this thing that you're planning to buy help you in any way or not? Keep it under restraint. Then weigh all these things and then see if that still, if it is that thing is still is what you want. Then go ahead and buy it. Take your parents' advice. Okay. And when instructing someone, like when I am instructing you, right, I'm giving you a story, I'm telling you a story. So if you in return ask me a question, I have to think a long time in answering your questions, because if I answer wrongly, then it might affect your thought process as well, and I'll be committing a mistake because I've imparted a wrong information to you. So whenever you're instructing something to somebody, you should make sure that you're reflecting for a long time and then only giving correct answers. So what is the final learning? So as you can see, a guru is blessing his shishya. So final learning is we have to avoid grief, and the way to avoid grief is by reflecting on our actions. And once we do that, we will become a great person in this world. Chirakari was known to be a great person because he reflected on his actions, and because of his actions, he avoided grief, and hence he became a great person. So finally, Gautama and his son Chirakari both attained heaven. So that is our story. So yeah, so that was our first story. So Sharmagar, should we take the questions of this story now, or should we do it at the end again?
We can end. I just want
Okay.
to add one more point out of this moral of the story. As our
Great.
Shastra says, that is anything good, you have to do it immediate. You don't
Okay.
delay it. Anything bad, if you feel anything something wrong, you think a lot and then delay the process. So for a good thing, you have to do it immediate, and the bad, if you feel something is wrong and something is bad, you have to think twice, and then also you have to delay that particular action. So that is one of the moral of this particular story. Thank you. Yeah, we can go to the story and we'll take a concern now.
Okay. Share the screen again. Okay. So this story is also from Mahabharata, and this story is also from Shanti Parva, right? This is actually a story where there is a conversation which is happening between a king called Brahmadatta and a bird called Pujani, right? So, what is Yudhishthira's question? So, Yudhishthira's question in this case is, in some earlier discourse, Bhishma says that you should not trust your enemies. So Yudhishthira continues that discourse and he says, we should not trust our enemies. That's what you have said. That is fine. Now, what should a king do if he can't trust anybody? And what should the king do if he has to conquer his enemies? And how can he not trust anybody? That was his question. Should we not trust our friends also? That was the way he framed his question. Now let's see what Bhishma says. Bhishma tells the story of Brahmadatta and Pujani. So Brahmadatta and Pujani. So King Brahmadatta was from Kampilya, and Pujani and Brahmadatta were great friends. And Pujani, for a very long time, they were great friends for a very long time. And Pujani used to live in the inner apartments of the palace. That means that was the kind of friendship they shared. So she used to live in the inner apartments of the palace. So who was Pujani? Pujani was like a Jiva Jivika bird. What was Jiva Jivika bird was? It was a Chakora bird. In our ancient times, Chakora bird was called the king of birds. So if I have to give you a latest example of say a Chakora bird, it is like a pheasant or a partridge. So this is like a pheasant. This is actually a depiction of a Chakora bird that you see on this slide. This might not be the actual bird. Okay. But so the Jiva Jivika bird and Pujani, both of them could mimic the cries of so both of these birds, the Jiva Jivika bird and Pujani, could mimic the cries of all the other animals. And Pujani was extremely knowledgeable, very knowledgeable. And she was conversant with every kind of truth that was available on this planet. Now, so what happened? How does the story go forward? So, Pujani had a child, which was of great splendor. The small bird had a great splendor to it. At the same time, king and queen also had a son. They had a prince. So Pujani was extremely grateful to the king for giving it shelter for a long time. And to show her gratitude, she used to go every day to the seas and the shores of the ocean and get two fruits. The fruits were extremely tasty. They were very sweet, like nectar. And uh, the whenever whoever eats that fruit becomes very powerful and energetic. He gets a lot of strength and gets a lot of energy. So those two fruits she used to give, one to the prince and one to her own child. So one day what happened, Pujani was out searching for fruits as usual. She used to go in the morning and she used to search for these kind of fruits. Then the prince, who was with his nanny, was playing, and he saw the little bird and he wanted to play with the little bird. He started playing with that little bird. He used to throw it up and to catch it. And finally, what happened? One time he just pressed the bird and the bird died. So the prince killed the bird and then he returned to his nanny.
I had to.
So when Pujani came back, this is the chick of a pheasant. This is a pheasant, the one you see with the great plumage, right? It's a beautiful bird, pheasant, and it's the chick of the pheasant. So Pujani came back and she was searching for her baby, and she saw that the little bird, was on the ground dead, and she saw that the prince had done this, and she wept, and she was filled with a lot of grief, and then thinking that she had to do something, she had to avenge the death of her child, she becomes very angry and she goes and plucks the eyes of the prince, blinding him. So the prince became blind, as and she gave that punishment to the prince. So why did she do this? Because she felt betrayed by the king. The king was the person who was supposed to take care of his subjects, and Pujani was his subject as well, not just a friend. So he was supposed to take care of her child, but the king didn't do that, and she lost the trust that she had in the king. Though they were friends, she lost the trust. Now, according to her, both of them became enemies. But King Brahmadatta appreciated Pujani. He said, I understand my son killed your child, and to avenge that death, you did the correct thing. You imparted the correct punishment to my child by taking out his eyes. And he said, you have done a good job, you have done nothing wrong. And he said, please, Pujani, stay back in the castle itself, in the palace itself, and don't go anywhere, and let's forget the hostilities. But Pujani didn't agree to that thought. Pujani mentions 5 types of causes for hostilities. So they've developed a hostile relationship because of the injury that was caused to, or the death that was caused to her child, and the injury that she inflicted on the prince. So she mentions 5 types of causes because of which hostilities happen in her reasoning to Brahmadatta, saying she will not stay. So the 5 reasons are woman, land, harsh words, natural incompatibility, and injury. So let's see what are these 5 causes. So woman, as you can see, this is the picture of Draupadi, Sairandri. So woman. So the hostility that happened between Kauravas and Pandavas was due to many reasons, but majorly due to the woman. Draupadi was mistreated by Kauravas in the Sabha Parva of Mahabharata, and eventually that led to the war of Mahabharata, which happened in Kurukshetra. The first reason was woman, and the hostility between Kauravas and Pandavas never died down, and ultimately it led to the destruction of Kaurava clan. So that is the first cause. The second cause is land. So, do you know the story of Drona and Drupada? Drona and Drupada were great friends because they were from the same guru. They were this students from the same Gurukula, and they were great friends. They were the best friends. So during his childhood, uh, Drupada was a king, a prince of Kampilya. So Drupada, in his childlike manner, promised Drona that when they grow up, he will give 50% of his Rajya to Drona. So as days passed and both of them graduated from the Gurukula and went their separate ways, Drupada eventually became the king of Kampilya. And Drona fell on bad times and he didn't have money to feed his child and wife. So one day he goes to the court of Drupada and says, "You have promised me that you will give me 50% of the land. I have come to take that land from you." So Drupada insults Drona and says, "What nonsense! I mean, we were young. I promised you at that point in time, but I never took it seriously. You shouldn't have taken it seriously yourself. But it's unfortunate that you have taken it seriously and you're coming and asking me for the land. It is impossible that I give you the land." So this led to the hostility between Drona and Drupada. And till the end, both of them fought. Drupada was, Drona asked for getting Drupada as a prisoner, as his Guru Dakshina when Pandavas and Kauravas graduated from his Gurukula. So eventually Drupada is captured, and Drupada, because of his anger, prayed and ultimately got Drishtadyumna and Draupadi as his children. And Drishtadyumna ultimately was the reason for Drona to die, right? So that is the hostility between Drona and Drupada. And why did it rise? Because of the land problem. So this is the second cause of hostility. What is the third one? The third one is harsh words. Now, this is the story between Krishna and Shishupala. You know that Shishupala and Krishna are actually cousins, maternal cousins. So when Shishupala was born, he was born with extra arms and extra eyes and extra legs. So one day Krishna comes to his maternal aunt and meets her, and then she shows, because there is an Akashvani which proclaimed that anybody whose touch removes these extra arms and extra eyes and extra legs will be the person who will bring the downfall of Shishupala. That was the Akashvani which was proclaimed when Shishupala was born. So his mother brought the child to Krishna, and Krishna held him, and that was when all his extra limbs fell down and Shishupala became a normal child. But since that time, his death was written in the hands of Krishna. So his maternal aunt asks for a boon from Krishna, and Krishna says, "I can't give you boon, but I can give you my abhaya, that I will not kill Shishupala, and I will not kill Shishupala till at least 100 wrongs that he does." And finally, when Shishupala grows up and he comes to Indraprastha during the coronation of Yudhishthira as the king of Indraprastha, he says bad words about Krishna, and Krishna ultimately kills him with Sudarshan Chakra. So that was the hostility between Krishna and Shishupala, because this was caused by harsh words. So this is the third hostility. Now let's see the fourth one. Fourth one is natural incompatibility. So as you can see, a mouse and a cat, there can never be peace between both of them. You would have obviously seen Tom and Jerry cartoons, right? So they are fun to see, but ultimately, what do they keep doing? They keep fighting amongst themselves. The cat and the mouse. There can never be any peace between both of them. So that is natural incompatibility. So there's always a hostility between a cat and a mouse. So this is the fourth cause. And the fifth cause is injury. So this is the cause which causes hostility. And this is our present story. In our present story, an injury was caused first by the prince, in which the chick was killed, the chick of the pheasant, or Pujani was killed, and ultimately Pujani also injured the prince by blinding him. So that is the fifth cause of hostility. So all these five causes will create hostility, and that can never go back. So this is the reason Pujani gives to the king and says, "No, we can't. We can never become friends again. I am leaving this palace for good, and I'll never stay here." So what do we understand from this story? What is the moral of this story? So we have to be very careful. First of all, we should trust people, that is fine. But before we trust, we should be very careful about whom we trust. We should take a long time. Like in the story of Chirakari, he keeps reflecting, right, on his actions. Should one do this? Should one not do this? Similarly, you have to be very careful about whom you trust. And then we should take time to make friendships. We all make friends, that is a very good thing, but you should make sure that your friendship is with a good person, because ultimately friends, if you have a bad friendship, they might lead you to do bad things, so which is not good for us, right? So we need to make sure that we make good friendships with good people. And as a person, we have 5 characteristics, and they are: we have to be knowledgeable, we have to be courageous, we have to be clever, and we should have strength, and we should have patience, because these are the 5 things that are our natural friends. So if we have all these 5 characteristics, then we needn't have any friend also to trust. But if we have these 5 characteristics, and if somebody like a king is ruling a country, then if he has all these 5 characteristics, then there is no problem for him. He needn't trust anybody except himself, and that will take him to places, and he can be very happy with what he has done. So this is the moral of our story.
Shri Chandramaulishwaraya Namaha.
Shri Chandramaulishwaraya Namaha. Shri Chandramaulishwaraya Namaha.
Shri Kamakshi Devyai Namaha.
Shri Kamakshi Devyai Namaha. Shri Kamakshi Devyai.
So we'll learn these 2 lines that are shown on screen. Jaya Jaya,
Jaya Jaya,
Shri
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 Kanchi Nagaryam
Kanchi Nagaryam, Kanchi Nagaryam,
Dvatrimshat
Dvatrimshat, Dvatrimshat,
Ma
Dharma, Dharma,
Pratipadanartham
Pratipadanartham, Pratipadanartham,
Sthapita
Sthapita, Sthapita,
Hema
Ma, Hema,
Dhvajalankృతే
Dhvajalankrite, Dhvajalankrite.
Jaya Jaya Shri Shri
Jaya Jaya, Shri Shri, Jaya Jaya, Shri Shri,
Kanchi Nagaryam
Kanchi Nagaryam, Kanchi Nagaryam,
Dvatrimshat Dharma
Dvatrimshat Dharma, Dvatrimshat
It is not
Dharma.
ta. Sorry, Anandiji. It is not twa ta. It is a dva. Dvatrinsat.
Yeah, Dvatrimshat Dharma
Dvatrimshat Dharma, Dvatrimshat Dharma,
Pratipadanartham
Pratipadanartham, Pratipadanartham,
Sthapita
Sthapita, Sthapita,
हेमध्वजालङ्कृते
हेमध्वजालङ्कृते हेमध्वजालङ्कृते
जय जय श्री श्री काञ्चीनगर्यां
जय जय श्री श्री काञ्चीनगर्यां जय जय श्री श्री काञ्चीनगर्यां
द्वात्रिंशद्धर्मप्रतिपादनार्थं
द्वात्रिंशद्धर्म
Dvatrinsat.
द्वात्रिंशत्
Okay, please. Okay.
धर्म प्रतिपादनार्थं
repeat
द्वात्रिंशद्धर्म प्रतिपादनार्थं
स्थापित हेमध्वजालङ्कृते
स्थापित हेमध्वजालङ्कृते स्थापित हेमध्वजालङ्कृते
We move on to the next line. Jaya Jaya Shri
जय जय श्री जय जय श्री
Sakala
सकल सकल
Mantra Tantra
मंत्र तंत्र मंत्र तंत्र
Yantramaya
यंत्रमय यंत्रमय
Parabilakasha
पराबिलाकाश पराबिलाकाश
Swarupe
स्वरूपे स्वरूपे
Jaya Jaya Shri Sakala Mantra Tantra
जय जय श्री सकल मंत्र तंत्र जय जय श्री सकल मंत्र तंत्र
Yantramaya Parabilakasha Swarupe
यंत्रमय पराबिलाकाश स्वरूपे यंत्रमय पराबिलाकाश स्वरूपे
Jaya Jaya Shri Sakala Mantra Tantra
जय श्री सकल मंत्र तंत्र जय जय श्री सकल मंत्र तंत्र
Yantramaya Parabilakasha Swarupe
यंत्रमय पराबिलाकाश स्वरूपे यंत्रमय पराबिलाकाश स्वरूपे
Let's start from the beginning. Shri Chandramaulishwaraya Namaha Shri Kamakshi Devyai Namaha
श्री चंद्रमौलेश्वराय नमः श्री कामाक्षी देव्यै नमः
Jaya Jaya Shri Kamagirindra Nilaye
जय जय श्री कामगिरीन्द्र निलये जय जय श्री कामगिरीन्द्र निलये
जय जय श्री कामकोटिपीठस्थिते
जय जय श्री कामकोटिपीठस्थिते जय जय श्री कामकोटिपीठस्थिते
जय जय श्री त्रिचत्वारिंशत्कोण श्रीचक्रान्तराल बिन्दुपीठोपरिलसत् पञ्चब्रह्ममय मञ्चमध्यस्थ श्री शिवकामेश वामाङ्कनिलये
जय जय श्री त्रिचत्वारिंशत्कोण श्रीचक्रान्तराल बिन्दुपीठोपरिलसत् पञ्चब्रह्ममय मञ्चमध्यस्थ श्री शिवकामेश वामाङ्कनिलये जय जय श्री त्रिचत्वारिंशत्कोण श्रीचक्रान्तराल बिन्दुपीठोपरिलसत् पञ्चब्रह्ममय मञ्चमध्यस्थ श्री शिवकामेश वामाङ्कनिलये
जय जय श्री विधिहरिहर सुरगणवन्दित चरणारविन्दयुगले
जय जय श्री विधिहरिहर सुरगणवन्दित चरणारविन्दयुगले जय जय श्री विधिहरिहर सुरगणवन्दित चरणारविन्दयुगले
जय जय श्रीमद् रमावाणीन्द्राणि प्रमुखरमणी करकमलसमर्पित चरणकमले
जय जय श्रीमद् रमावाणीन्द्राणि प्रमुखरमणी करकमलसमर्पित चरणकमले जय जय श्रीमद् रमावाणीन्द्राणि प्रमुखरमणी करकमलसमर्पित चरणकमले
जय जय श्री निगमागम सकल संवेद्यमान विविध वस्त्रालंकृत हेम निर्मित अनर्घभूषण भूषित दिव्यमूर्ते
जय जय श्री निखिल निगमागम सकल संवेद्यमान विविध वस्त्रालंकृत हेम निर्मित अनर्घभूषण भूषित दिव्यमूर्ते जय जय श्री निखिल निगमागम सकल संवेद्यमान विविध वस्त्रालंकृत हेम निर्मित अनर्घ भूषण भूषित दिव्यमूर्ते
जय जय श्री अनवरताभिषेक धूप दीप नैवेद्यादि नानाविधोपचारैः परिशोभिते
जय जय श्री अनवरताभिषेक धूप दीप नैवेद्यादि नानाविधोपचारैः परिशोभिते जय जय श्री अनवरताभिषेक धूप दीप नैवेद्यादि नानाविधोपचारैः परिशोभिते
जय जय श्री श्री काञ्चीनगर्यां द्वात्रिंशद्धर्म प्रतिपादनार्थम्
जय जय श्री श्री काञ्चीनगर्यां द्वात्रिंशद्धर्म प्रतिपादनार्थम्
स्थापित हेमध्वजालङ्कृते
स्थापित हेमध्वजालङ्कृते स्थापित हेमध्वजालङ्कृते
जय जय श्री श्री काञ्चीनगर्यां द्वात्रिंशद्धर्म प्रतिपादनार्थम् स्थापित हेमध्वजालङ्कृते
जय जय श्री श्री काञ्चीनगर्यां द्वात्रिंशद्धर्म प्रतिपादनार्थम् स्थापित हेमध्वजालङ्कृते जय जय श्री श्री काञ्चीनगर्यां द्वात्रिंशद्धर्म प्रतिपादनार्थम् स्थापित हेमध्वजालङ्कृते
जय जय श्री सकलमन्त्रतन्त्र
जय जय श्री सकलमन्त्रतन्त्र जय जय श्री सकलमन्त्रतन्त्र
यन्त्रमय पराबिलाकाशस्वरूपे
यन्त्रमय पराबिलाकाशस्वरूपे यन्त्रमय पराबिलाकाशस्वरूपे
जय जय श्री सकलमन्त्रतन्त्र यन्त्रमय पराबिलाकाशस्वरूपे
जय जय श्री सकलमन्त्रतन्त्र यन्त्रमय पराबिलाकाशस्वरूपे जय जय श्री सकलमन्त्रतन्त्रयन्त्रमय पराबिलाकाशस्वरूपे
Ram Ram.